Ever wondered what it was like to wake up in a Viking village, shivering in a smoky longhouse with a goat nibbling your boot? Forget the Hollywood image of fearless warriors sailing into battle, axes gleaming under a dramatic sunset. The real Viking life was a gritty, wild slog. Think less epic saga, more disastrous camping trip with zero Wi-Fi and a side of frostbite. These weren't just burly men with cool beards. They were families, farmers, and craftsmen battling freezing winters, questionable hygiene, and customs so bizarre they'd make your head spin. Picture this. You're curled up on a wooden bench, wrapped in a sheepskin that smells like last week's stew, with smoke so thick you're coughing before breakfast. Modern comforts? Try sheer willpower and a stubborn refusal to freeze. How did they survive days filled with icy baths, lumpy porridge, and the constant threat of a rival clan's axe? It's honestly beyond wild, and we're diving into every absurd detail. From waking up to animals in your face, to scrubbing with soap that could double as ship caulk, this is the unfiltered truth of a Viking day. Stick around, because if you think your morning routine is rough, wait until you hear about their version of a shower. Or what passed for one. Historical records, like sagas and archaeological digs in Denmark, show us a world where survival meant outsmarting the cold, the dark, and the occasional runaway cow. Ready for a journey through a day so chaotic it makes your worst Monday look like a spy retreat? Let's go. The Vikings didn't just endure, they thrived in ways that'll leave you stunned, amused, and maybe a little grateful for your heated blanket.
Waking up in a longhouse. Imagine waking up in a Viking longhouse, where the line between bedroom and barnyard is blurrier than a fog-soaked fjord. You're not in a cozy bed, but sprawled on a wooden bench wedged between your snoring cousin and a sheep that wandered in overnight. The air, thick with smoke from a central fire that's more enthusiastic about choking you than warming you. Archaeological digs in Denmark, like those at Trelleborg, reveal longhouses crammed up to 30 people, plus goats, dogs, and the occasional cow, into one open room. Privacy? A myth, as distant as Valhalla. Your morning alarm isn't a gentle chime, but a goat chomping your boot, mistaking it for breakfast. One saga tells of a Viking named Bjorn who woke to his prized boot half-eaten by a particularly bold nanny goat. His furious yells became the village's unofficial dawn chorus. The longhouse floor, a mix of dirt and straw, doubles as a petting zoo with chickens clucking and dogs rooting for scraps. You'd roll over, hoping for 5 more minutes, only to inhale a lungful of smoke so dense you could carve it with an axe. Light? Forget it. Tiny windows, if you're lucky, let in more frost than sun, leaving you squinting in a haze that makes your eyes water before you've even stood up. Every creak of the timber walls or bleat from the livestock feels like a personal insult to your sleep-deprived soul. And yet, Vikings thrived in this chaos, their days starting with a stubborn grit most of us can't fathom. Historical records show they slept in shifts, sharing benches to keep warm, proving their knack for making do. If you survived this rude awakening without cursing Odin, congratulations, you're tougher than most. But brace yourself, if waking up was this wild, the morning hygiene routine was about to make you miss that goat.
Hygiene horrors, Viking self-care nightmares. If you thought waking up in a Viking longhouse was rough, their hygiene routine would make you run screaming back to your smoky bench. Picture this, no warm showers, no fluffy towels, just a weekly plunge into a stream so cold it could freeze your soul. And that's if you're one of the clean ones. Vikings didn't exactly prioritize spa days. Bathing was a gritty affair, often a group effort in an icy river that felt like wrestling a frost giant. Their soap? A caustic sludge of lye and animal fat, smelling like a shipwreck left to rot. Imagine scrubbing with something that could strip paint off a longboat, leaving your skin raw and your pride in tatters. Archaeological finds, like those from York's Viking settlements, showed they were oddly obsessed with combing, carrying antler combs like modern-day smartphones, because nothing says, "I'm a fierce warrior," like a perfectly parted beard. One saga tells of chieftain Olaf, who reportedly halted a raid to fix his hair, his comb collection rivaling his hoard of looted gold. Communal grooming sessions were a thing too. Think less bonding time, more everyone's picking lice off each other in plain sight. No shower gel, no privacy, just you, your neighbors, and a shared bowl of lye soap that could double as a weapon. Historical records note Vikings prized shiny hair over, say, not smelling like last month's fish stew, a priority that makes you wonder about their life choices. If you're cringing at your morning routine's bad hair day, try facing a mirrorless world where your comb's made from a deer's antler and your bathwater's got ice chunks. Vikings endured this with a shrug, proving their toughness went beyond the battlefield. Survive the stream bip without hypothermia? Great. Now it's time to choke down breakfast, which, spoiler alert, isn't winning any Michelin stars.
Breakfast battles. Forget about avocado toast or quick latte. Viking breakfasts were a battle just to choke down. Picture a longhouse table, smoky air stinging your eyes, as you stare at a bowl of porridge so lumpy it could star in a Viking saga. This wasn't your grandma's oatmeal. It was barley, boiled to a glue-like sludge, maybe jazzed up with a sad sprinkle of dried herbs if you were lucky. Archaeological digs, like those at Birka in Sweden, show fish bones littering every Viking settlement, so salted herring or cod often join the menu. Their stench announced breakfast before the cook did. For chieftains, breakfast might mean a rare slab of roasted boar, dripping with fat, while thralls, enslaved workers, got stuck with scraps that even the dogs eyed skeptically. Social hierarchy ruled the table. The boss got first pick, then his warriors, leaving thralls to fight over wilted cabbage or bones already gnawed to splinters. One saga tells of a cook named Swin who tried to get fancy with gourmet porridge by tossing in random berries, only to accidentally use toxic ones, sending half the village sprinting for the latrine. The skalds turned his flop into a mocking poem, proving even Vikings loved a good roast. Historical records confirm their diet leaned hard on preserved fish and grains, with fresh meat a luxury for the elite. No smoothie bowls here, just food that tested your will to live. If your morning cereal feels bland, try eating porridge that doubles as mortar while your chieftain hogs the good stuff. Vikings powered through, their stomachs as tough as their shields, fueled by necessity and a grim determination to survive. Made it through breakfast without gagging? Impressive. But the day's real grind was about to hit, and trust me, it's not for the faint of heart. Viking jobs that make modern work look easy. Your 9-to-5 feels rough? Try being a Viking farmer, wrestling frozen dirt with a wooden plow that's more splinter than tool. Viking life was a relentless grind where every day tested your grit in ways that make modern cubicles look like a vacation. Farming in Scandinavia's brutal climate meant battling rocky soil and frost to grow barley or rye, crops that had to outlast long winters. Viking sagas, like those from Iceland's Flateyjarbók, described farmers toiling 14-hour days, coaxing life from land that seemed to hate them back. Then there were shipwrights, painstakingly carving longboats to survive stormy seas, each plank a make-or-break deal for the next raid. Craftsmen hammered out tools or wove sails, while quirky roles like the bone carver, whittling combs from deer antlers, kept the village looking sharp. The skald, the village poet, had it toughest, spinning epic rhymes about battles while dodging tankards hurled by drunken warriors unimpressed with his meter. One saga recounts a farmer named Thorvald, whose stubborn ox refused to plow, sparking a feud so heated he challenged it to a wrestling match. Spoiler, the ox won, and Thorvald's bruised ego became village gossip for years.
Historical records from sites like Rebay show Vikings mastered this chaos, turning barren coasts into thriving hubs with sheer willpower. Thralls hauled wood, women wove wool into sails, and kids learned to sharpen axes before they could read. Every job, from mending nets to carving runes, was a cog in a machine that kept the village alive. If your office coffee machine breaking feels like a crisis, imagine your entire harvest depending on a plow and a prayer. Vikings didn't just survive, they thrived, forging communities from frozen earth with a resilience that'd make your toughest workday blush. But if you thought farming was wild, wait until you hear how they prepped for raids, where one wrong move could mean a very bad day.
Evening feasts and entertainment. Picture a Viking longhouse at dusk, the air thick with the sweet burn of mead and the roar of a fire that's more chaos than warmth. Evening feasts were no polite dinner parties. Think bar trivia night with axes, worse lighting, and a higher chance of someone wrestling a cousin over a bad joke. Vikings gathered around scarred wooden tables, chugging mead from horns while skalds belted out epic poems about gods and gore, their voices battling the din of drunken cheers. The vibe was communal chaos, with kids, warriors, and even thralls packed in, shouting over each other like it was a family reunion gone feral. They played Hnefatafl, a board game so intense it was basically chess with Viking rage. Losers often flipped the board, sending pieces flying. One saga, from the Heimskringla, recounts a feast where a tipsy chieftain, Eric, bet his best sword he could outdrink his rival, only to pass out mid-boast and wake up with his beard braided into knots by a prankster. The skalds turned his snooze into a village anthem, sung for weeks to his chagrin. Historical records show feasts could last hours, with tables groaning under salted fish, roasted boar, and bread hard enough to break teeth. Wrestling matches sparked up spontaneously. One wrong word and you're grappling in the straw, dodging spilled mead and stray dogs. If your worst party foul is spilling wine, try dodging a thrown fish because the skald's poem rhymed glory with snorri. Vikings lived for these nights, where stories, fights, and laughter forged bonds stronger than iron. It was their way of shaking off the day's grind, proving they could party as hard as they fought. But if you thought daytime was wild, nighttime was another beast. Brace yourself for a world of ghosts and gods that made even the toughest Viking check under their bench.
Ghosts, gods, and Viking superstitions. As night fell, the Viking longhouse turned into a shadowy realm where every creak felt like Odin's judgment. The fire's glow barely held back the dark, and Vikings, tough as nails by day, huddled together on benches, wrapped in furs, fearing what lurked beyond the embers. Norse sagas, like the poetic Edda, brim with tales of trolls, spirits, and vengeful gods, and Vikings took them seriously, leaving offerings of bread or mead to appease unseen forces. Candles were a luxury, so darkness ruled, turning every rustle into a potential troll ready to drag you to hell. Sleeping arrangements? Picture a communal pile near the fire, with snores, farts, and the occasional bleeding goat creating a symphony of unease. Superstitions ran wild. A dropped knife meant Thor was angry. A strange shadow signaled a draugr, an undead horror. One saga, from the Orkninga saga, tells of a warrior, Leif, who leapt from his bench, axe in hand, swearing he saw a troll, only to find it was his own cloak flapping in the wind. His mates mocked him for weeks, their laughter echoing louder than any ghost. Historical records show Vikings carved runes on doorframes to ward off spirits, proving even raiders weren't above a good luck charm. In that pitch-black longhouse, fear wasn't just a feeling. It was a roommate curling up beside you as the fire died. Yet they slept, fueled by grit, superstition, and a lot of mead, ready to face another wild day. If your worst nightmare is a power outage, imagine living where every night felt like a horror movie with no pause button. Vikings didn't just survive this madness, they thrived, turning terror into tales that bound their world together. Could you handle a night in their shoes, or would you be checking for trolls under your bench? That's the Viking life, beyond wild and tougher than we'll ever know.